The men's basketball program is undergoing major changes. We'll talk about the women's basketball team's historic run, and Adele Thornton will also join us live in studio. All that coming up and more on Bobcat Breakdown. Hello everyone and welcome to Bobcat Breakdown, sponsored by QU Online. Finish your degree early with success. On this week's episode, I am joined by two of the brightest minds in student media here at Quinnipiac, and Shane Denneny and Ryan Chichester. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. It's March 28th. The Atlanta Falcons blew a 28-3 lead, so I'm doing pretty good.
People forget. How about you, Ryan?
I'm doing great. Proud to be here for the first time, and
there you go.
Couldn't have asked for a more worthy adversary. I'm ready to go.
All right, guys, I'm going to get right to it. This week has been a huge week so far for the men's basketball program here, as they announced the hiring of Baker Dunleavy as the next coach. Dunleavy spent the last 7 years at Villanova, and he becomes the 7th head coach in QU's history. Guys, what is your initial reaction to this hiring?
I love it. I think it's the right direction you want to take the program. You look at Coach Dunleavy and what he's done at Villanova, developing guys like Josh Hart, a John Wooden finalist this year, so he clearly has a player development pedigree. He's also been highly regarded as a recruiter. I think you can say that Tom Moore experiment came to an end. It was a steady decline over the last 4 years, 21 and 20 and 12 a few years back, ended this year at 10 and 21. Defense was one of the worst in the MAC. I think that falls on the head coaching. It was time to make a change. They did. I love the move. It shows an investment into the future of this program, and I think it's a good day here in Bobcat Nation.
Personally, I kind of struggled with this question a little bit because I kind of compared Baker Dunleavy and Tom Moore. I mean, they were both associate head coaches at big-time Big East programs in UConn with Tom Moore and Villanova with Baker Dunleavy, and they're both known for their recruiting, and they both won national titles, but ultimately this was the right signing for Quinnipiac to go with Baker Dunleavy. It really was time for Quinnipiac to go in a different direction, only winning 19 games the past 2 years, 9 this year, and really they need a culture change, and Baker Dunleavy is going to bring that. Really, I was really impressed with what he said at the press conference today. Really, he focused on developing men, and that was really what he was driving home, talking about them being student athletes and really wanting to help create them and become better men.
Now, Shane, you mentioned the press conference today. He was introduced today at the TD Bank Sports Center, and we had cameras up there for his first ever press conference at Quinnipiac. Take a look.
Not only our current players, but the players who have come before us. I think it's something that we found to be very important to us at Villanova. Is the most important thing is the people. And those who have played here at this university before us, no matter what coach they played for, what era, what time they were part of this program, they will be very important to me. And connecting with them will be very important to our players, and we'll know the history of this program. The core of our program will be playing hard and being a team that bases itself on toughness. I see this program as one that's going to recruit good people. They're going to come in here and control what they can control from day one. And I believe effort is something that at the highest level every player can control. Players that we were able to recruit at Villanova are recruitable here, obviously on a different level, but in terms of priorities. Kids that care about school, they want to be the best student athletes they can be, kids that are driven to be professional basketball players, and kids that are willing to work and come from great families.
So guys, we have your initial reactions, but after all that, do you think he was the right choice? There was Jared Grasso throwing, his name was around there, Scott Burrell, but ultimately after those candidates their names were thrown out, do you think he was the right choice?
I really do think Baker Dunleavy was the right choice. I mean, how can you turn down an opportunity to hire the associate head coach at the reigning national title winners in the Villanova Wildcats? Villanova really has become the power in the Big East after some conference realignment over the couple of years, but really, he can go out and get some of the top players, and you talked about that, not obviously on the same level, but the guys who fill what Quinnipiac is looking for in students first and athletes second, but both really combining and want to be premier athletes on the court and premier students in the classroom as well. So I really do think he was the right hire.
And so much of the focus is on Baker Dunleavy as a coach. We forget Baker Dunleavy as a player. 4 years at Villanova as a walk-on. This guy knows what it takes to grind out and play hard and earn your spot, and that's exactly what Quinnipiac needs right now, is a little bit of a culture change. I get some of the disappointment about not bringing on Grasso due to his Quinnipiac ties, but maybe getting away from the original Quinnipiac culture is what this school needs right now to make a major change. I mean, let's face it, this culture, whatever it's been, has not been working out as of late. They need an attitude change, and he said it in his press conference. The immediate changes are going to be in attitude and toughness. That's something you can change right away. I like his vision, and I think they're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, going off the point Ryan made about the controlling your attitude, that was what Baker Dunleavy really hit home with a lot in the press conference, saying that you can control your attitude. That's something you can control and really want to do. But Quinnipiac, they really do need that guy who can control them. Before Quinnipiac, the women's team went out to California, they were talking about, some of the players were saying that their team doesn't take the stretches seriously as the women do, and that really shows you how much Tom Moore lost this team, not being able to control them when they were taking the stretches.
Now, guys, early reports came out that Peter Kiss, Mikey Dixon, and Chase Daniels were all asking for the release from Quinnipiac once their hiring became public. But today, Chase Daniels indicated on social media that he is in fact staying, and so far nothing has really been confirmed about Kiss and Dixon officially leaving. If they do leave, though, guys, do you think this is a premature decision by the two of them?
I think it more depends on how they handle their situation. I mean, Baker Dunleavy, he met with the team for the first time this morning, and he talked about it afterwards with us. He was saying that he talked to Mikey and Peter individually and wants to build that relationship with them and really give them his vision of the program, and he hopes that is in line with what they want for Quinnipiac. But really, if they take time over the next couple weeks and ultimately that is the decision they arrive to, then that's fair enough for them to come to that decision and leave. But if they decide tomorrow, they're like, you know what, Baker Dunleavy, we're going to leave, we're going to transfer, I think that's a bit premature and immature of them.
I think it's premature regardless of when you make this decision if you're these kids. This is a proven player developer at an elite program that hasn't lost back-to-back games in 4 years. If you want to leave now when your school is showing this kind of commitment to the program, I've been trying to think about it all day. I can't wrap my head around it. You know, I like how Shays went on Twitter and made his motives known that he's going to stay, and he clearly is okay with the hiring. And I would hope these two freshmen follow suit. If you look at how much promise they showed in the first year, now you bring in a coach that's known for how you develop your players into stars, into John Wooden finalists, and plus the recruiting help that could come in the next couple of years. These are young kids with a few years left. They could see some of the brightest years of Quinnipiac basketball when they were upperclassmen.
But to play devil's advocate, these players sometimes only have a certain amount of years left of eligibility. They may feel like their prime is now. Do they really want to wait for a coach to implement a new system when they feel like they can go to better places?
I mean, yeah, you say that Baker Dunleavy is known for developing John Wooden finalists, but it's Quinnipiac. They play in the MAC. They're not getting the premier players in the country. It's different. And Chase Daniels, he's a senior. Who really cares if he leaves? He's really not going to have an input on the future of this program like Mikey Dixon and Peter Kiss are. Mikey Dixon won MAC Rookie of the Year. Peter Kiss can jump out of the gym with anybody. That block he had this season was incredible. Who can jump that high? Really, these two players have a huge amount of impact on the future of where this program is going in a while.
Okay, and you mentioned that they're not going to be recruiting at the level of Villanova because they're in the MAC. That means they're also not going to be facing the same competition as players on Villanova will be facing. It's still the MAC conference. Baker Dunleavy can do plenty of good here at this school, and you're right. College players' careers are short, so why not stick where you are now? You had a great freshman year here. Try this new vision and see what happens.
But if in fact these two players do decide to leave, how far do you think this would set the program back?
I mean, it would set the program back a year or two for sure, because this is the core of the backcourt for years to come at Quinnipiac. What's supposed to be the core of the backcourt for years to come. But you also have to look at Dunleavy's recruiting pedigree. They're going to be fine. It just might take a little longer than expected if these two were to leave. So I'd say it would set them back another year or two, but I think it would still be an upward trend, just given Dunleavy's recruiting and what he can do.
I mean, to say it's the recruiting, but that's what Tom Moore was coming into. He was known as the recruiter. He got top players at UConn, and that's the same thing with Baker Dunleavy, but you really don't know. Like, this team only won 19 games the past 2 years, 10 last year and 9 this year. if Peter Kiss and Mikey Dixon go, they're not winning 9 games again this year. They're probably gonna finish 11th in the MAC. Really, they're gonna struggle next year if both of those two players leave.
But this is big picture. Are they going to immediately be great because they hired Baker Dunleavy? We got to look at the big picture here.
All right, guys, lots to talk about there, but when we come back, we'll sit down with Adele Thornton and talk about our team's Cinderella run to the Sweet 16. Don't go anywhere.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
And welcome into Studio 125.
So what? So what?
If you score 40 points in a basketball game, we all know you play Quinnipiac Intramurals. We all know you love to shoot the rock.
Well, if you think that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, what I'm about to say, I guess, is going to be pretty ridiculous in your book. But I'm going to say yes, there is a controversy.
Line, getting ready to punch the ball as it lands right in front of another Monmouth player.
It's 9:30 Eastern, and you know what that means. Sports Pause is on the air.
Ball played up the middle. Iman Whalen with a little cheat off the play. Preseason just boils down to going after another national championship and not necessarily focusing on the one before.
MJ, it is time for our favorite part of the show. It's the top 5 plays of the week, brought to you by B&D Deli, home of the Q-Dog.
Let's talk about the first play you want to break down.
Yeah, let's break it down right away.
But the one name I'm going to throw out there is a freshman, Mika Maples.
Coming up, and hashtag that. We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news. All this and more.
Coming up on the Q30 Newscast.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown, presented by QU Online. Get your online degree with success. We now welcome in Adele Thornton. She's from Ireland. She's a sophomore guard here at Quinnipiac, and she's live in studio with our own Brian Schwartz. Brian?
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Adele Thornton. Adele, thank you for joining me tonight. Crazy week. Crazy last couple of weeks, right? Just take me through what it was like with your team on the plane rides to Florida to California. Just take me through how crazy it was.
I think we were all trying to just embrace the moment a little bit, but we, especially on the plane to Miami, we knew we were going there for 2 wins, and we obviously got them, and we didn't want to leave with anything else. So I think that was more of a business trip for us, and then going to California was definitely a huge achievement because we knew what we had done in Miami and how much of an impact we had on. I don't think anyone, like even just not just basketball, like life. I think we played it as if it was more than a game, and we showed everyone in the country that you can do anything that you believe.
You guys kind of showed it was more than a game, where you kind of brought Quinnipiac to life and kind of made people know what Quinnipiac was. Was that kind of like an extra motivation that people didn't really know about Quinnipiac before the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, when the selections show, when we got drawn to Marquette in Miami, one of their players told us that they had never heard of Quinnipiac, and I mean, it was broadcasted everywhere. So that kind of amped us up a little bit to know that we knew that there were a lot more people out there that didn't know who we were, but the fact that someone would say it on like live television or whatever kind of gave us a little bit more of an edge to show who we really were.
Obviously, the reaction coming back after the 2 wins, the Sweet 16 appearance was great. What was it like coming back on campus with other students, faculty? What was it like that?
For me personally, I didn't know that many people knew that I actually played on the team because like I had an 8 a.m. the following morning. We all went to classes as scheduled. Like it was amazing. Like it wasn't like we were going back to class. Like people knew who we were, like knew what we had done, and we hadn't got that before. Like we won the MAC and just went back into regular classes, and people didn't really notice. Whereas like winning this game, people knew who we were.
Recognition here, recognition back in Ireland. What's that like with family back there?
I mean, my dad came to both of my games, and he actually came with my aunt to Miami, which was a surprise to me. It was really fun to have him there. And then my mom came to California too, so to see them both there and just when it brought a tear to my mom's eye, like it was huge for me to show her, like see how proud they were of me. And I know that I have a lot of support at home because I came from like a family background like it is here, so they're all still supporting me.
And next year, can you guys do this again? Do you think you can make this run again?
We can. I mean, we knew we could do it this year, so next year it's not going to be a hope anymore. It's going to be an expectation. We've risen the bar, and we intend to live up to it.
Well, we'll see. Good luck in the off season and
Thank
good luck
you.
next season. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much.
All right, back to you, Connor.
Thank you, Brian and Adele. Gentlemen, sticking with the women's basketball team, obviously this run was incredible and got the Quinnipiac name out there, but does something like this put an unfair expectation on the team?
Honestly, I really don't think this puts unfair expectations on them because their fans and us media, honestly, I think we have lesser expectations of them. I think our expectations were for them to win the MAC regular season and then the conference tournament and then just make it to the NCAA tournament. But for them, they set a higher expectation than anyone thought. They kept it on the down low. They were like, you know what, we're going to make the NCAA tournament and then we're going to go to the Sweet 16. And that's exactly what they did. And realistically, I don't think fans are going to expect that again because they play in the MAC. It's a mid-major, and really it all depends on their seeding, how far they truly can go. But they don't have unrealistic expectations on them.
But you look at the state of the MAC after this, a lot of key pieces leaving and some other competitive teams. Marina Lizarazu is leaving for Iona. You have Julia Duggan. She's leaving for Ryder. There's no reason why they can't win the MAC tournament and get back to the NCAA tournament.
Which was my point, that their expectation is to win the MAC, so they can do that.
So if they get back to the tournament, why can't there be an expectation that they could win another game?
Because it depends on what seeding they get. They got lucky with the seeding they got with Marquette being a 5 seed and having no experience. Quinnipiac actually had the experience when they were a 12 seed compared to the 5. And then they matched up perfectly. They played perfect games. They struggled with slow starts all this year. They played a perfect game against Marquette, got off to a 9-0 run, and they played a perfect game against Miami. And obviously,
I would argue that blowing 17-point leads isn't playing a perfect game. They blew a 17-point lead against Marquette. They
went
got
wire
that
to wire.
win.
They didn't blow any lead.
It was a 17-point game that got cut to 2. They were in danger of
Yeah,
letting
but
that game
Marquette
slip
plays
away.
in the Big East, and
That's
they play in the
called
MAC.
building-
There's a mid-major to a
I'm
Power
not saying
5,
it like it's a
and why
bad
they
thing. That's
came
called
back.
building experience. You build your
Yeah,
tournament
they know
experience.
they know
you
they
build
can-
that Quinnipiac mentality. We saw it on Adele Thornton's shirt out there.
Yeah,
you
which
build
is
that
great.
mentality.
And they showed that resiliency, and they stuck with it, and they led wire to wire against Marquette, and then they held the lead against Miami. They showed their resiliency.
So then why can't they get back to that place again next year?
They can. I told you, it depends on their seeding
So then
and the
why
teams they
can't
have
we
to
expect
play.
it? Why can't the expectations
We
be
can
high?
expect it. They can expect it.
So
They're not worried about
so
the higher expectations.
Shane, are
That's
you
the goal
saying-
they set.
Are you saying it's more left up to chance that they can go on, and you're saying it's more left up to the fact that they're talented enough to move on? Is that basically the bane of the argument right here?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's whoever gets hot come tournament time. And for Quinnipiac, it was several different players at several different times. Jen Fay was on fire against Marquette. It was Morgan Mann's turn against Miami. Players catch fire in the tournament. They're bringing back plenty of sharpshooters. I don't see why they can't do it again next year.
Now, Shane, you made an interesting point about they played perfect games. Do you think to get to this situation again, making a Sweet 16 or even winning an NCAA game, they have to play perfect again?
That's exactly what they showed all year. They struggled with the slow starts. And against the MAC teams, they can come back. They have the talent to do that. There's lack of talent in the MAC. But once you play these Power 5 conference teams, you have to play perfect from the start. In the first quarter against South Carolina scored 22 points. They only scored 7. You cannot do that against the best teams in the NCAA.
All right, gentlemen, we know that a run like that helps the school out tremendously as far as recognition goes, but do you think it also helps out the MAC gaining national recognition?
I think a little bit. I mean, Marist in 2007, they did the same thing Quinnipiac did, so that was really what Quinnipiac was going on. It's like a team from our conference has done that before, but there's been all this camaraderie between the MAC with the coaches all supporting Quinnipiac in their run, and it really does bring attention because you start looking at Quinnipiac, you're like, first of all, everyone's like, how do you say this school's name? Where are they? What's Hampton, Connecticut? Where is that? And then you see their conference because you want to know who else is in their conference, and you see Marist, and you're like, oh yeah, that 07 run they made, and realistically you start looking at the other teams and players, and you start following the MAC, and hopefully it'll help grow their league and make it a little bit better and help Quinnipiac get higher seeds in the NCAA tournament.
I'm going to move to the men's for a second and look at a team like Gonzaga in the Final Four right now in the West Coast Conference. No one cares about anyone else that's in the West Coast Conference.
St. Mary's is pretty good.
You have a team. St. Mary's is pretty good, but they got bounced really early in the tournament. You look
They
at
were
a
the
team.
only team who beat
You
Gonzaga
look at a
in the
team
Final
like
Four.
Wichita State, who's now changing conferences because their seeding was really poor given their competition in that conference. So I don't want to rain on any parades, but this gives Quinnipiac plenty of exposure. Everyone knows how to pronounce their name now. They're featured on ESPN. So the team itself certainly has a spotlight on them now. But in terms of the MAC as a whole, I really don't see the exposure broadening that much. I think it's more on the team specifically, but we've seen conferences struggle to get their names out based on just one Cinderella performance.
All right, guys, coming up on Bobcat Breakdown, we stick with the women's basketball talk because we just have so much tension and so much energy here. So we'll give you guys, and they'll also give you the game of the week upcoming week for Quinnipiac, so don't go anywhere.
It's 9:30 Eastern, and you know what that means. Sports Pause is on the air.
Left ball played up the middle. Iman Whalen with a little cheat off the play. Preseason just boils down to going after another national championship and not necessarily focusing on the one before.
MJ, it is time for our favorite part of the show. It's the top 5 plays of the week, brought to you by B&D Deli, home of the Q-Dog.
Let's talk about the first play you want to break down.
Yeah, let's break it down right away.
But the one name I'm going to throw out there is a freshman, Mika Maples.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
And welcome into Studio 125.
So what? So what?
If you score 40 points in a basketball game, we all know you play Quinnipiac intramurals. We all know you love to shoot the rock.
Well, if you think that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, what I'm about to say, I guess, is going to be pretty ridiculous in your book. But I'm going to say yes, there is a controversy.
I'm line, getting ready to punch the ball as it lands right in front of another monumental player.
Coming up on hashtag that. We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news. All this and more.
Coming up on the Q30 Newscast.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. Ryan and Shane, we're going to stay on the topic of women's basketball, but turn our focus towards next season. They're losing a lot from this team in Morgan Mans and Adelie Martucci, but in your opinion, what is the biggest weakness now?
Honestly, I think there's 2 things I touched on earlier about their slow starts. That cannot be continued for this team. Obviously, like I said earlier, they can get away with it in the MAC, but when they play these big-time teams from Power 6 conferences, they can't stick with that team. Obviously, South Carolina, slow start. They lost by 42. They really need to continue the fast starts like they did against Marquette and Miami. And then another thing, at the defensive guard, Adelie Martucci snubbed with MAC Defensive Player of the Year, and I really don't see someone on this team stepping up and filling a role.
Well, they also were the best defensive team in the MAC, so I think it goes beyond Adelie Martucci, who is certainly their most valuable individual piece on defense. In terms of weaknesses, I'm looking at the three-point line. You lose Martucci and Mans. Those are 2 of the top 15 most efficient three-point shooters in the MAC this season. Now, you do have other sharp shooters from the three-point line like Jen Fay, who we saw in the tournament, can catch fire. But when you don't have as many weapons around the perimeter, it kind of lets defenses hone in on certain threats, and all of a sudden it's not as widespread of an offense and kind of takes away a big piece of your weapons.
Yeah, Shane, I'm glad you brought up Martucci and her defense because I really think that's probably they will be missing the most is her defense, her perimeter defense. Trisha Fabi teaches that. She coaches that very well, but it doesn't matter how good the coach is. If the player isn't there to really implement it, and I think that's what they'll be missing the most. But like I already mentioned, they're losing a key cog in their operation with Adelie Martucci. But they may have the pieces to replace her. Shane and Ryan, who could replace her?
I'm not ready to say who. I'll just say whom. Pluralization of that word, of course, because it's just a balanced team. When you think of Quinnipiac, they had 0 players in the top 20 in the MAC in scoring, yet they were the most efficient offense in the country. Coach Fabry, one of the best, probably the best coach in the MAC. She'll be able to get the most out of some of her young players. I'm looking at Vanessa Doji. Was ranked the 19th best wing player by ESPN coming out of high school. She can certainly be a perimeter threat. to replace Martucci. So Coach Fabry has options. I think they're going to be just fine.
I kind of struggle with this too. This was said about Maria Napolitano last year, really who was going to replace her, and Ali Martucci filled that role. And what really stood out about Ali Martucci with her defense was her quickness and athleticism. And I really think Brittany Martin, who didn't play a lot this year after Brittany Johnson went down and wasn't able to get in on the gold rush that they went away when they went to the rotation style, which is more common. But Brittany Martin, she came in against South Carolina, really was a little bit of a spark, but I think she has that athleticism and quickness that can really step up. It could be Carly Fabry as well. She's pretty solid defensively. She has a lot of work to do this summer, same with Adele Thornton, offensively and defensively, but I think Quinnipiac will find a replacement for her.
Now, guys, not only did this team bring national recognition to Quinnipiac, but it also brought national recognition to Trisha Fabry. Now, I'm not saying she's leaving, I'm not saying she's staying, but if she does leave, in your opinion, how long will she stay for?
Well, obviously, she has one son who's still in high school, who's a freshman, and he went viral during the Miami game. But so I think she's probably going to stay for at least 3 more seasons. But I think it's going to be hard for Quinnipiac to hold on to her with the fact that she took Quinnipiac, who plays from the MAC, little teeny tiny Quinnipiac, all the way to the Sweet 16. So she's going to get some pretty solid job offers. But I think she will hold out for the next 3 years just so her son can stay in his high school.
I think 3 years is a generous prediction. I think she's gone once Carly, her daughter, graduates. You think about what she's done with this program. Started out with 2 wins in her first season, now got 2 NCAA tournament wins in her last season. You go when your resume is the strongest, and when, other athletic directors at bigger schools, they have short memories. So you want to go when you're at your highest peak. And arguably, Coach Fabry can't be at much higher of a peak right now.
To counter that, though, she has built this up from the ground, and she has ownership with this program. You really think she'd want to leave a program that she has ownership, that she cares so much about, to someone else?
Especially when Quinnipiac proved that they're willing to dish out the cash with offering $800,000, which was the rumored figure for Baker Dunleavy. They offered her an extension last year, but who knows? Maybe they can offer another one and give her a higher pay raise. I mean, Ali Martucci was saying it on Twitter, so who really knows?
Well, Coach Fabry's a competitor, though. We've talked to her so many times. She's so competitive. I think she would like to get another challenge at a bigger school. She's gotten a taste of the NCAA tournament now, a good taste this time with 2 wins. I think she would try to go after maybe a Power 5 school and see if she can make some noise at a bigger school.
See, I just think it's ridiculous that we can just throw away that she's been here for 22 years and that she's literally owned this program and brought it up from the ashes. Not really from the ashes, but from nothing, really, when they first became a D1 school. It's just tough for me to believe that she'd be willing to leave something like that, even if it is a big Power 5 school. Does she like going into a position where there's a lot of pressure on her, knowing that she can win with a smaller school and that she's maybe, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for, expected to win with a bigger school? It'd be a tough move from her, I would think, to leave the school.
Yeah, who really knows? But really, she has developed this program immensely, taking it all the way from D2 to D1, and at one point even wanting to quit, but the old athletic director, Jack McDonald, not accepting her resignation, thankfully, that she took Quinnipiac all the way to Sweet 16 this year.
All right, guys, well, it's that time for Game of the Week, and this Game of the Week is going to be the men's lacrosse game against Manhattan. Now, guys, men's lacrosse had a very good year last year, obviously made it to the tournament, got bounced by #1 overall seed Maryland. But why is this your Game of the Week, Shane?
This really, I was surprised. The out-of-conference, Quinnipiac is known for their tough out-of-conference schedules, so I wasn't surprised with the loss to Brown, who made it to championship weekend last year. They had Dylan Malloy, who's the ranked Tewaaraton Trophy winner, and Princeton as well, who's a perennial power in men's lacrosse. But now that we're getting into MAC play and they lost their first 2 games, that was really a sign of concern for me, and it's really a worry. They're going to have to win out if they want to get back to the NCAA tournament.
Both teams are 0-2 in the MAC. They're both the top 2 teams in the MAC in ground ball, so I'm looking for a physical, emotional game. You have Brian Feldman for Quinnipiac, Parker Giarratana for Manhattan, the top 2 scorers in the MAC. So I think you have a lot of even playing field here. It should make for a good game.
Well, guys, it's been fun, but now the fun is done, and that'll do it tonight for Bobcat Breakdown. If you want to learn more about Q30 QBSN, you can follow us at Q30 Television and at QBSN on Twitter. A big thank you to our producers and everyone behind the scenes working so hard back there. For Shane Dennehy and Ryan Chichester, I'm Connor Fortier. Have a great night, everyone.